Okay, so I'm going to talk for a little bit. I'm going to share some thoughts. And the knowledge kind of pads the experiential practice, because after that, we'll meditate and hopefully start to build more of an intimate connection with what I'm talking about so that you can bring awareness of it into your daily life, whether you want to carry with you the formal practices. Meditation, I like to think of as the formal constructive practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness, again, being that purposeful, non-judgmental, present moment awareness. It's just about being aware of what's going on in daily life. You know, you can be mindful with a loved one that you're having coffee with. You can be mindful with the project that you're working on. You can be mindful with social media if you'd like to be. So it's about paying attention. And how are we paying attention? Are we paying attention during the day? Or are we getting kind of lost in the sauce of unconscious, sort of reactive relating to the world around us? And the conversation I want to have today is about how we manage our attention in an attention economy. And in an era where we have a lot of competing influences for our attention. Everyone's trying to grab our attention. Whatever they're incentivized to buy, it don't matter. And what I hope this conversation will do is empower you to start to think about and start to notice the ways in which our energy and our attention is pulled. And I'm not one to necessarily believe that there's, a global cabal there is trying to figure out all the ways in which they can manipulate you and keep you disempowered, and maybe you do, and that's fine. But the energy with which I want to approach this is to really turn towards and acknowledge the reality of the world that we live in and empower ourselves to be able to work within it, to be able to work with it, to be able to choose how we use our attention, even when there are sources that may be pulling it, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, away from us. So I want everybody to just take a moment and just think about, and close your eyes, just reflect inwardly, and you don't need to overthink this, but just think about your day-to-day life. What are the top 3 things that compete for your attention? They could be people, they could be responsibilities, they could be advertisements, be types of thoughts. It's a very open-ended question. You can open your eyes. I'd love to just hear from a few of you. You can just yell it out. What's the number one thing that pulls your attention or that comes to mind? People? Yeah. Work?
Cell phone.
Cell phone? Yeah. Guys on the interwebs?
Work, cell phone, relationships.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you, Griffin. Yeah. So a lot of things pulling our attention. And none of this is bad. None of this is bad. The energy with which we approach all these conversations is again, that non-judgment of like, there's a reactivity to life with which we can just unconsciously let our attention slip away from ourselves. And all we're doing is starting to become aware of that and just start to notice it and create some space from it. And as I'll illustrate, the practice of meditation is also training us in choosing how to bring our attention back to where we want it to be. I want to share an intimate story, something about me and my personal life. And there's a couple layers to this. And maybe you relate to it, maybe you don't resonate to it, but I think it speaks to kind of the depth of the human experience and the way that we're engaging with the world in a way that can be super vulnerable to the attentional sort of competition that we're dealing with. Had a very challenging childhood, addiction in the household, a lot of emotional and verbal abuse, and my parents split, and I was angry as fuck. I was so sad, I was scared, and I fought with my mom, and she had me arrested, she had me put in hospitals, and one day she packed up my suitcase when I was 13, she put me on my dad's step, and she kicked me out. I have abandonment wound when it comes to my mother. And one of the patterns of trying to compensate for that in my adult life is to seek female approval, is to seek female attention. there's a neediness. There's a, where's my mom? Where's my mom? And one of the places where I notice that most obviously is in the gym, in a public gym. I'm here doing my thing, and a lot of time I'm having a great time, listening to my music, I'm lifting my shit. But then there's some woman across the gym, and I'm like, oh, hello, how you doing? And I notice my mind start to pay attention to her. And not only do I notice my mind start to pay attention to her, I start to notice my mind paying attention to her and thinking about, how is she looking at me? How do I look? Do I look good? Am I good enough? Is she paying attention to me? And all of a sudden, and this happens very reactively, and it's become more and more conscious over the years, but it's occupying a lot of energy and attentional resources. You think about our attentional capacity as like a computer system. You open up the task manager and you see how many programs are running right now. Holy shit, I've got 50 programs running, and I didn't even know I had 25 of them open. You know, your computer, our attentional capacity only has so much functioning energy. So in the gym, what happens? You think if I'm having 40% of my attention, and there's a charge underneath it because of my wounding, because of my trauma, but it's also playing on a normal social drive. We're on a certain level looking for mates. You know, it's not, I don't think anybody can deny that they've ever checked someone out in the gym or had their attention pulled to an attractive, you know, person, because there's also that level of just our wiring. And then there's the level of the wounding that we're carrying around. And these two levels are things that maybe you don't relate specifically in this example, but you may relate to when it comes to work. You know, I get pulled into this. Well, what's the deeper layer of why I'm being pulled into this? Is it because I don't feel like I'm enough and I'm compensating and trying to go over here? There are these deeper layers that we're carrying around. But the consequence of this, how well do you think that I am, how good do you think my attention and my form is if 40% of my energy is unconsciously wrapped up in and pulled away by this reactive pattern? I had a lot of injuries over the years. I don't know if any were directly as a result of this, but most likely. You're not paying full attention because your attention is leaking. And I bring this up because this was really the thing that has been the precursor for this conversation, because it's become a really beautiful practice space to notice when that happens. And to notice the consequence and the energy of losing my attention to what I really want to be focusing on, which is myself, my body, my practice, the weight I'm lifting, having a good time, being comfortable in myself. When I'm losing my energy reactively, unconsciously to that, there's a cost. And so in this space, in becoming aware and not judgmental of this, not saying, oh, you little shit, like stop looking at her or whatever. It's like, no, there's love in it. There's compassion in it. There's a gentleness to recognize and acknowledge the ways in which we get pulled out and saying, okay, hey, let's come back. Where do we want to be right now? Where do we truly want to be? The same thing happens when we're getting lost in thought. We're like, oh, come back to the breath, come back to the body. It's that simple little piece right there. So this is a personal example, but I think social media is really a prime example that I want to use in our phones, because I think it's something that we can absolutely all relate on in terms of the way in which an economy that is designed based on trying to get us to pay attention to certain things is constantly vying for our attention. So now there's not only, you know, our primitive wiring to look for a mate or social validation and the wounding that we carry around that's adding an extra charge, but there's also incentivization on behalf of those who structure society to grab our attention. So we got kind of all these things that we got to start to become aware of in order to create more personal power to come back into ourselves. And so mindfulness is really about the U-turn. It's about noticing where our attention is and turning it back into ourselves. So I'd love everybody, as a little experiment here, to pull your phone out, if you have it with you, and open up whatever the most annoying, invigorating social media app that you have is. And if you don't, you can just imagine. If you don't have your phone, that's wonderful. That's a great boundary. And I want you to open the social media app, and I want you to just start to scroll a little bit. And I really want you to just let your attention get engrossed in it. Place your full attention in those delicious looking colors and all that fun stuff. And just notice what's happening right now for you. Notice the way your attention starts to really zoom in to this little box, the universe behind it. And I want you to pause. So take a deep breath. Take a moment to just look up. Now come into your body. Feel your body sitting here. And close your eyes for a moment. You're welcome to. Notice your breath. Notice your feet on the ground. You can open your eyes again. Pick your phone back up again. Same thing, looking at the social media app, but this time maintaining your awareness in your body. In fact, we're going to zoom all the way out. So I want you to look at your phone with a really wide lens, as if you're not even paying attention to what it is. Your attention is fully in your body. This. So you're looking at the phone, but your attention is not in the body. Can y'all feel that? Can you feel how you're paying attention to your body sitting here and you're not getting sucked in? I want you to find a middle ground. Let yourself put a little bit of attention into the phone and keep 50% of your attention into your body. And now come back into your body and put your phone down. So what I wanted to demonstrate is that there is a natural pull, and these systems are designed to play off of our brain's most primitive wiring, to pull our attention with all the nice colors, with the emotional provocation. And we get very easily pulled into it, and yet we don't have to. There is a way in which we can mitigate the ways in which we are attending to these things. We can stay more present in our bodies. And what I wanted to show you is that there's kind of a spectrum. You can go all the way in and raise your hand if you've ever been on your phone for 45 minutes and then you realize, holy shit, I've been on my phone for how long? Yeah, you get lost in the sauce, right? And I'll get you in a second, Griffin. Thanks for...
I was just raising my hand, but it made the little Google noise along with that. So I'm just going to take that as feedback for future. I was trying to raise my hand too. And then by raising my hand on the thing, it creates a question. So
okay. We can also come back into ourselves, and we can attend to these things that can be immersive and distracting without completely being lost in them. And we can also kind of play in this middle ground. You think about when you're having a conversation with somebody, you can have your attention 100% in them. Or a lot of the times we have our attention 100% on ourselves. What am I going to say? What do I think about what the fuck they're going on about? Maybe you're doing this right now. You're like, what is this guy talking about? Are you really paying attention to me? Or where do you want your attention to be? Do you want to pay attention to me? Do you want to pay attention to your phone? These are just ongoing questions. There's no right or wrong answer, but it's about equipping ourselves with kind of the predisposition to pay attention to where our attention and our energy is going and what it really feels like. Like, does it feel great when we're just sucked into our phones? Maybe for a little bit, but then it gets quite draining. It hurts your eyes. It's like your brain's kind of blah, 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 and it's like we actually have the capacity and the power, and we can train that with these practices to kind of back up and make healthier decisions for ourselves. I think this is absolutely essential. This is why I really think there's such a beautiful need for these practices right now in this day and age because we've never lived in a more complex time, both technologically, but also in terms of just the way that our society is shaped. And again, I don't think it's not my personal prerogative to point the fingers at them for making these systems. I think we have to do the U-turn and point the fingers at ourselves and decide, hey, how am I going to take responsibility for and the power back for my own attention? Because ultimately you have the capacity to choose what you do with it. You've chosen to be here tonight. You've chosen to listen to me. You know, that's all your prerogative. And I think we have more power than maybe we, let ourselves be convinced. So we'll do. Hey Griffin, did you have a question, buddy?
No, I don't want to interrupt anymore. I was trying to raise my hand just to raise my hand like everybody else, but it triggered
okay.
the question, and so
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Cool. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, cool. So we'll do a little bit of a longer practice right now for about 15 minutes, and it's quite a simple technique. We're paying attention to the body. We're paying attention to the breath, but with the intention of knowing that when we lose track of the body, we lose track of the breath, which is our anchor. So we're choosing to place our attention. We're practicing placing our attention here. When we lose track of this, upon noticing is the benefit of building the muscle of coming home to where you want your attention to be. So many people beat themselves up because they lost track of the breath, they lost track of the body. That's actually where you're fucking winning. That's where you're winning. In that moment where you recognize whether it's 15 seconds or 15 minutes after the last breath that you were conscious of, it does not matter. Once you notice, you are building the capacity to be aware of when you are unaware. And that little beautiful moment that we're going to practice here for an extended period of time is something that you can bring into anything and everything that you do in daily life, where your attention will be pulled away from where you thought it was supposed to be, where you wanted it to be. You were focusing on your work, and all of a sudden you're thinking about what sloppy Joe you're going to have for lunch or whatever, like, sorry, I got Joe on my mind. And we can come back. And it's this simple little moment where we come back to the breath in the body, that we learn to come back from the things that steal our attention, steal our energy. Sound good? Okay, awesome. Thank you for listening. I invite you to find a comfortable position. You can sit up, you can lay down, trying to remain attentive. Closing your eyes, starting with a nice double inhale, taking 2 sips in through the nose, filling up the lungs, pausing at the top, and then releasing through the mouth. One more double inhale, filling the lungs just like that. Letting go of the breath. This little bit of breath work, great ways to start meditation practice, signaling to the nervous system, to the body, that something's happening, that we're going to slow down. As you slow down, again, letting go of all the intense efforting. There is a real gentle, balanced, wise effort that we're aiming for here. We're not just completely nodding off. We want to remain attentive, but we're not straining. It's really gentle, receptive awareness as you start to arrive into your sensory experience again, feeling the body here. Connecting with the shape of the body, with the weight of the body. And if there are aches and pains, that's okay. Just seeing if you can let them be here. We're going to start to connect with the breath. So unlike those first intentional breaths, we're not controlling the breath. We're just letting the breath breathe itself. It's helpful. You can put a hand on your stomach. Find the stomach and the diaphragm to be one of the most clear places to make contact with the breath. So noticing the way the stomach expands on the in-breath and gently pauses at the top, and then contracts and relaxes backwards in the out-breath. And starting to watch, observe, appreciate each breath. If it's helpful, you can add a gentle whisper to yourself inwardly, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Just staying with each half breath, one breath at a time. And this is going to be your anchor. This is your home for the next collection of moments. Again, not something to laser focus on, but also not to dilly-dally with. And anytime you notice that you have drifted away, your attention has fallen away from the breath, whether it's a thought, an itch, an ache, a pain, all you need to do is bring this energy of, aha, I got distracted. And you're going to come right back to the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And just checking in, noticing if you have drifted off and just coming back, beginning again. This in breath and this out breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Coming right back to the breath. This breath, this moment. Perhaps bringing in some energy of affirmation that I am consciously choosing where I want my attention to be. I choose to place my attention in the breath, the body in this moment. Breathing in, breathing out. And wherever you're at now, just checking in and noticing if you've gotten distracted, being really gentle, graceful, intentional in coming back to the here and now, coming back to this breath. Seems repetitive, it is. And with each return, we get stronger. Power of our attention and our intention gets stronger. Breathing in, breathing out. And then give you a little bit more space for these final moments. So seeing if you can start to catch yourself on your own without my reminder. Coming back to this breath, this moment. And just checking in, noticing where your attention is right now. Coming back once again to the breath, the body. And now starting to open again. And we're widening the lens, starting to feel the whole body sitting here, breathing. Really slowly, you see we can really adjust the lens of our attention very intentionally, really slowly starting to open your attention. And as you do, seeing if you can maintain a solid amount of CPU of attentional resources to stay in your body and in your breath. You can start to connect with the room around you. Notice sounds. Connect with the other humans and the hearts in the space. And notice the way that you can sense some light shining through your closed eyelids. And as you're ready, still breathing, still staying connected to body, opening your eyes, really taking your time to slowly come back into the space, to sit up, to stretch if you need to. And just check in with yourself. Just get a sense of what it feels like to be in your body. I know we didn't do a pre-check-in, so to speak, but maybe noticing if there's a difference in your attention and also the quality of your attention, how your body feels. Hopefully there's a little bit more calm. You feel a little bit more connected to what's here.